Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Embody Radio. I am your host, Emily Duncan, and today we're going to have a quick intro with lower audio quality than usual because I am on adventure mode, traveling currently in New York City. Just came here from Sedona, like I mentioned in last week's episode. And first of all, I'm having the best time with all of the adventures, which it's been so cool coming into a more adventurous and more social spirit. I have been a mild recluse for the better part of my adult life, and that the tides are turning. But I'm having the best time. And secondly, I did not bring a microphone to record this intro, so we're doing great. And we are going to jump right into today's show, minimal fluff in the intro, so that you can get to some better audio quality and so that you can get to know our wonderful guest. So today we are talking to my wonderful friend, Matt McLeod. So Matt McLeod, first of all, is basically like a golden retriever in human form. Wonderful human, and he's one of my great friends. I met him at a writing workshop in Austin, Texas, through a bunch of our mutual friends who are also at the workshop, and we have just been buds ever since. And I love the stuff that he puts out. I love his content. I love his spirit. I love his energy. It's just amazing. So Matt is an online fitness coach, a registered dietitian, and content creator based out of Lexington, Kentucky. He coaches men and women on how to look great naked, who doesn't want that, be proud of who they are, and enjoy life. And today we are really getting into some just nitty gritty of lifestyle nutrition and also doing just regular old life and soul talk like we typically do on the show. But there are so many practical nuggets of wisdom about nutrition and about lifestyle and about harmonizing your goals and your expectations and the actions that follow. So without further ado, let's dig into it with human golden retriever and source of wisdom, and also the, to my knowledge, founder of his personal trifecta of wine, caffeine, and water, which I'm sure you will hear about on the show and see within his Instagram. So without further ado, let's chat with Matt McLeod.
I'm the middle baby.
Middle child.
Yeah, I'm the
Middle
best.
child.
I'm the best one in between the brothers. Every time I introduce myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm the dumber but taller and more handsome brother. So that's just how it goes.
You're like, hey, we can't have everything. It's like that thing where you're like, you can only have two of the following list. What are you choosing?
We play up our strengths. He's a pharmacist and like a COO of this
wow.
compounding company and stuff. So it's like, he's good, but it's just like, I mean, come on, just look, just charisma is just dripping. We're good to go.
It really is. You have such like a golden presence about you. Like you just show up, you're ready to go. Like it's just shiny.
You know what it is? Are we going, or are we going to get into it?
I mean, like I just started recording so we can dive in whenever. Like it's funny when I said this to my last interview, it's because it was with a friend. Whenever it's with friends, like we just get talking, and then I'm like, we'll introduce you at some point. So I cut out whatever is necessary to cut out, but say what you're about to say.
All I'm going to say is that like, this is because I was thinking about, because with podcasts usually they ask like, what do you do, or just like a quick rundown or whatever, and it's literally, I think I can have this energy because I genuinely enjoy life. Like I genuinely like try to put like enjoyment and joy and just having a good time while I'm here. And I think, that's just all. I've just always been kind of glass half full type of guy. And it's definitely thanks to my parents. My mom, for sure. She's like the saint on earth. She's the kindest person ever. So good genes.
Except when she's icing you at weddings.
Yes, but it's out of love. That
was a great story.
Wasn't it good?
Storytelling. I was like, he used his storytelling.
I did my best, but it just worked out because that was just genuinely what happened. I just said what happened, and it was so beautiful. But yeah, that was a fun time.
Well, shoot, I definitely want to include that because that's something I would love to touch on because so many people don't exist in that space. But while we're here, introduce yourself. Let people know who you are, what you do, how you experience life, all that stuff. Guys, we're talking to Matt. Matt McSassy is his technical name, but I will allow you to introduce yourself properly.
Matt McSassy. That's great. You know what? I wish it was Matt McSassy because Matt McLeod, like everybody, my last name, like I understand. It's more difficult whenever you see it on paper. I wish it was MCCLOUD, but Matt McSassy kind of rolls off the tongue even better.
It really does.
To be 100% honest.
The new brand.
That's right. So yeah, my name is Matt. I am just the quick rundown is, so I'm an online fitness coach. I'm a registered dietitian. And I also do just a little bit of fitness consulting here and there with other coaches. And then I'm also a creator. I like to build things and I like to write. I like to do podcasts. And honestly, as I was saying before, I think I've realized with fitness and what I do is I want everyone else to enjoy life as much as I do. And I think that my vehicle for doing that is through fitness. So like I want people to live their life unapologetically exactly how they want to live. And I don't want fitness to give them any friction in doing so. Do you see what I'm saying? So
I love that.
that's kind of how I have just lived naturally. And I just was lucky to go through the whole fitness thing and just using that knowledge to, and my God-given, mother-given communication skills to help other people do the same thing.
Absolutely. So if I may ask, like we have so much to dive into with this because I love all of this. Growing up, what was your fitness journey like? Like, were you an athlete? Did you have like a transformation story? What was kind of your intro into this world?
Yeah. I'll try and keep it succinct, but the short answer is high school football. High school football. I started on the team whenever I was a sophomore, but I was a little bit of a taller, lankier kid. And I knew that I needed to get bigger and stronger and faster to keep up with the older guys. And so I knew that probably lifting weights and eating more was going to be my way of doing that. And so I went to the gym after practice and things, and there would be other older guys there who were on the team, like the starting running backs and stuff, because I was also a running back. And he came up to me while I was doing preacher curls. Of course, like I was just like, I'm going to go in the gym. I'm going to do some arms. I'm going to do the show muscles. I'm going to do some bench press, all those kinds of things. And he came up to me and he was just like, "Hey man, you're doing it all wrong." And I was just like, "What do you mean I'm doing it wrong? I didn't know you could lift weights wrong necessarily." And he was over in the corner with some other like linemen and just behemoth of guys. And they were doing like banded squats or something. They had chalk, they were grunting. Wow. It was very obnoxious looking back on it. However, for a younger kid trying to fit in, I was like, yes, like he kind of took me in. And then I started working out with them after practice, and I kind of earned my merit through them. And so the whole point of that is that was the first time, because so by senior year I had gained 30 pounds of muscle, and wow. I had of course, like, I got the notoriety from girls or from my parents and from other people. I just, my high school ego, I became like the fitness guy. And that was the first time in my life whenever I realized like, hey, you can put a lot of effort, and you can have effort and knowledge into something, and then you can get some type of tangible result, right? And so fitness was that vehicle, and that kind of sparked my curiosity in like, hey, if I want to get all of these things quicker, it makes sense to get smarter with these things. And so that's whenever I got introduced actually into Lane Norton, and I found his natural bodybuilding section in Muscular Development magazines, right? He had like a
magazines. Wow. What are those, right?
I know, right? So he had No Bullshit Body in that magazine, and I would always read it and stuff. And so luckily, just by finding him, I was able to find other really good information in the field, and I just started learning as much as I could. And then that kind of sprung me into the fitness space. And so then I went into college, and then I decided between being a kinesiology major or being a registered dietitian. And I thought, well, if I wanted to be a coach, I don't need a 4-year degree in exercise science to become a personal trainer, right? You can be certified or whatever, right? But with a registered dietitian, I knew that one, I would have a leg up on many other people. If I wanted to be an online coach or just be in the fitness space, it would just be a little bit more credible than having the exercise science degree, at least in my opinion. And then I also knew it was a safety net, right? So my mom is very high up at the local hospital and things. And so if I would ever want to, like even right now, if use my registered dietitian credential to, if everything goes to shit, I'll just go work at a hospital or something like that. So for me, it was mitigating risk. And also people struggle with nutrition typically more than exercise. So all of these things combined, I was like, okay, I'm going to go down the registered dietitian route. And then so I did that, and I started to get a few clients in college. Just a couple buddies came up to me and they're like, "Hey, do you care to help me with my fitness plan?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I started charging them through Snapcash. Do you remember Snapcash on Snapchat? That was my payment processor.
My God.
Yeah.
That's some under the table shit.
$45. Yeah, it was either Snap Cash or straight cash, right? Like it was either like, I was drug dealing for programs. But it was legit like $45 a month on Snap Cash. That's what I started off on. And my buddy was in a fraternity and he got results. He started telling a couple of his friends. Word got around. And before I knew it, I had 4 or 5 clients there at the University of Kentucky at the campus gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, maybe I can actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time that I graduated, by the time I became a registered dietitian credential, I had saved up enough money. And then I had enough of a roster to eventually be a coach full time. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. So I hope I kept that.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's so dope. I love that. One question that I would have for you, well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions. This is a podcast.
It's all good.
But actually it just escaped my brain.
Dude, isn't that the worst when that happens? You're just like, don't worry, I'll try and talk and I'll stall and you talk about it. I know. I probably, yeah, it's just, that happens. That absolutely happens. It's okay. It's okay.
No.
We're here.
But as far as like the career path, this was what I remember now. I would be curious just because of the time that, you came up within the industry, like same time, like consuming from Lane Norton. Lane was one of my first like people that I ever learned from. Like I watched his videos in my dorm in college. And whether it was how you started coaching, but then also how you coach now. Do you coach from a macros based perspective? Was it all just habit based? Was it a mixture of habit based and macros? What was your initial structure like? And then what does that look like now?
It was very bodybuilding-esque because most of the guys that came to me, like it was mostly just males at first.
Yeah.
And they just came to me and because I also competed in 2 different natural bodybuilding shows as well.
Okay, what federation?
Drug tested shows, NGA.
Okay.
Well, actually, the first one might have been something differently, but I actually won my pro card at the second one.
No way.
Yeah. So
that's dope. Casual.
I competed my first semester in college, and then I got 4th place. I actually worked with Paul Revelia before Paul ever like really blew up. I mean, like he was doing it full time. He was doing well, but like he's crushing now.
Mm-hmm.
And because what's funny is I didn't know anything. I hit up Lane Norton. I emailed him and he was like, hey kid, I was like 18 or 19 or something. He's like, you might just, Paul might be a better fit for you.
Yeah.
And so I worked with Paul, but I gave myself like 12 weeks. And so whatever, It was just not enough time. I was already naturally lean, but not lean enough for natural bodybuilding. And I had a great time. And so that kind of triggered me into getting more serious about it. And then I competed again my last semester in college. And that's whenever I actually won my pro card in the NGA. So yeah, I won the overall, but that was those types of people and the type of content that I was putting out on social media was very heavily like bodybuilding based. But I think what attracted people was I just used my personality, right? So even though I was talking about macros or whatever, periodization or training or whatever it was, I would put my own little spin on it. Like whenever infographics first started getting big, I didn't see anybody else doing it. I don't know if I can claim being the first one to do it. And I'm pretty sure it's even illegal to do this, but I was using Family Guy images and like The Office images and all of these things that and I would have like Michael Scott's face, but then he would have all these bubbles around him, like talking about something with fitness or whatever. And so I just kind of put my own spin on things. And then also I was like snarky and just like an egotistical kid as well. I just had fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think that is what always shined through. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, a lot of the nuts and bolts of things as far as then and now, like, I still have people who track calories and macros, and then I give them a training split, and it's pretty straightforward, that type of stuff. And then of course I have other people who are more on like a habit-based approach who don't want to track as many things, or it gives them more anxiety, or it's just they flourish better in a different capacity. But I think what's different now is the unlayering of what people actually want. And so it's more so just like, what's the real end goal here, and how I think where the magic lies is not in the programming or the macros or anything like that. It's like there's plenty of people smarter than I am that can give you probably better answers to those things, but it's in the communication aspect and figuring out, hey, how can we navigate real life situations? And I've came up with all of these things that I've kind of just done on my own, because I'm trying to do the same thing, right? Like I am my niche, and that's kind of what has happened.
Beautiful. Like,
yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I am my niche, and that's just kind of worked out. because I attract other people like me. And again, that could be narcissistic, but it's working out. It's going good. We're fine. But yeah, so I think it's just like, yeah, the types of people that I work with, the magic is in like the weekly check-ins. It's just like, hey, they say this, they're having this type of problem, they're feeling this type of way, and it's kind of just whatever, the motivational interviewing, the behavioral change, whatever it is. It's just like, let's figure out what's really going on behind, really worrying about that scale number, or worrying about X, Y, and Z. You're trying to reach this by this certain date, right? And just putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. That's the thing. I want to try and take pressure off of people, because it can, especially in the fitness space, we can just put so much pressure on ourselves to make all the right decisions, to get the results the quickest possible, to look a certain way so that other people will love us or accept us, and so that we can accept ourselves and be proud of ourselves. And that's really hard to do. And that goes much deeper than just macros and training and things like that. So it's in the one-to-one communication.
100%. And coaching is so much more. I've learned over, because I've been doing this it'll be 6 years in December. It's so much more than, like you said, the programming macros. It's the questions that you ask. It's and not just the giving of advice. I'm happy to give advice to a client, but what's often more, and you can speak to your experience, what's often more impactful, particularly in those friction moments, whether it's a scale struggle, whether they're struggling with, social settings and going out to eat and things like that, is asking them, what do you think would be the most, accessible thing for you to do in this scenario? Or what do you think where do you think your, struggles with the scale come from, since we've explained all this stuff of here's why it fluctuates, like asking them, because for one, that gets them to think a level deeper. But for two, especially when you're trying to get someone to create a change and you're like, well, what do you think the most easy thing for you to be or to do would be here? When they come up with the answer for themselves, they're much more likely to do it versus being told what to do. It's like a little kid. You're like,
and it works, and they're pumped.
Yes.
They're so excited.
Exactly. And then when something works, it becomes positive motivation. And then they're like, I'm going to keep doing this. It's a positive feedback loop. Versus, if you're to just come at something super tactically and be like, okay, well, you're struggling with this. Here's exactly what you should do. If they aren't able to fulfill that, then it becomes a negative feedback loop of, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to do it.
Yes. And that's why, like, with my, like, on my coaching pages and stuff like that. And it's just like the main thing that I've realized that I try to help people do. And again, this could be with anything, but fitness is just the vehicle that I'm doing that, is I'm trying to get people to keep the promises they make to themselves, right? It's like, I want to help them keep their word to themselves and make their actions match their ambitions. They have these certain values. And it's just like, how can we keep more promises than we're breaking to ourselves? And so it's just like, most of the time, like, that's what they really are after. It's not I was just talking to a client this morning. She was just like, I wanted to be X weight by this date. And then, but the past couple of weeks, she hadn't done as well. She just had a lot of stuff coming up or whatever. And then the week before she sent this, she had a great week. She was like, I nailed all my workouts. I did this, and I'm really proud of myself. And then maybe even like the scale didn't even move as much as she thought it would. And I was like, but here's the thing. I was like, if you reach that goal weight, let's say faster, but in a less sustainable way, and in a way that just kind of checks the box of getting to that number, it's just like, you're not going to feel as well, especially if you end up getting a higher weight later on, because you fall off track, because the things that you did were unsustainable. And so I was like, if you just work on the consistency side of things, of keeping those promises based off what is important to you, then it's just a matter of time, right? Because then the weight you have forever, right? But you have something even more important than figuring out how to be in a calorie deficit for 12 weeks so that you can reach a certain goal weight. What you have is these skills, and you have this newfound trust in your abilities, because that's what it really is, right? You whenever you keep these promises, you build trust in yourself, so that next time, whenever you're faced with one of these issues, for example, you trust yourself that you're going to be able to use those same tools to step up to this problem and to try and overcome it. And then that builds momentum, and that snowballs. And so it's just like, that's the real key. And I think that if I can just consistently bring people back to that narrative. And I joke around with like coaching. It's like a lot of coaching is just the art of getting our clients back on track and just like keeping them focused on the task at hand, keeping them focused on what's important, what they say is important. It's just like, hey, you told me this at the beginning. We're working towards it. We're taking the steps on a daily basis. And it's like, as long as you are taking these steps on a regular basis that are aligned with your values, it's just like, what else can you really ask for? You know, it's like the other stuff, the other things like that will come. Like, it's just a matter of time, but it's like, let's work on these things now so that you can continue to whatever, you can reach this weight and then you can maintain that weight, or you realize that the weight doesn't even really matter that much in the first place, right? Like that's it, because what they were looking for, it wasn't that scale weight. What it was they wanted to respect themselves and they wanted to be proud of themselves and they wanted to love what they did on a regular basis, so that whenever they hit their head or whenever they put their head on the pillow at the end of the night, they're like, damn, that was a really good day. And I did everything that I said I was going to do. I followed through, and that feels really fucking good.
Absolutely. Like, I'm like poetry tapping like all over the place. And something that I like to point out to clients too is like, when they're, in process of a goal, but they have a week where they're like, I'm feeling more confident. Like I'm, wearing XYZ different clothes because I just feel really good. I'm like, hey, you realize you're doing these things and you're not at that quote unquote goal yet. What does that mean? That means that the confidence is built in the process and in the showing up for yourself. And like you said, in the keeping the promises to yourself. It's not just in that end result. It's in that process of self-efficacy, like you went through as that, sophomore in high school, that, you got the knowledge and you did the thing and you had the outcome and you're like, oh, fucking great. Like, this is really cool. And I can repeat this. Oh shit. Great. Like, people just need to show themselves that they can do something and there is a positive outcome on the other side. And then they're like, oh, this is a repeatable process.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what it is. And I think what also we have to realize, the pithy little thing that I like saying is like, we have to work with ourselves instead of against ourselves. And that could be whatever season of life it is for you in this moment. It's just like, let's just flow with it. Let's just ride the wave, and it's just like, as long as you, the very first thing with any of this stuff is managing your expectations, right? It's just like, what can you do? What can you not do? And then like being okay with that. Again, keeping the promises you made to yourself along with those values. It's like those values have to be established first, and then we can take care of everything else. Right. So it's just like, hey, we just have to figure out what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And that can be dynamic. That can be an ongoing basis, right? This is why whenever clients come to me, and there was a question that I had, because I had one client who was she was very type A and like very, just telling her to like, hey, love yourself. She needed something more tangible. She needed more of like a framework. She needed something to like decide with. And so one of the things was whenever she went out to eat with like friends or something, she was like, if I just get whatever I want and things like that, she was like, am I overeating? Like, do I need to feel bad about that? Do I need to like, whatever? She needed some type of framework. And I was like, well, it's not, I was like, here's the thing. What it does, it comes down to managing those expectations before going into the meal. And it's like, if you go into the meal and so if you go into the meal and you're like, hey, here's two choices here. I can either make the choice to prioritize my fat loss goals, my health goals. And so I'm going to get a grilled chicken salad, for example, right? I'm going to get that. I'm going to honor my fat loss goals because that's what's important to me in this moment. And I'm still going to enjoy myself with my friend, but this is what's important to me right now. And that's what I want to do. Great. Right. There's that. Then the other option is going to be like, hey, this option is going to be more around just the experience of eating. It's going to be more like a life meal, an enjoyment meal, whatever. It's just not centered around fat loss and fitness and things. So you're just going to get whatever you want. You're going to enjoy the meal, and then you can get right back on track later, right? It's like, that is perfectly okay as well, right? There is no wrong answer here. The only thing that I want you to do is to make a conscious decision that aligns with what's important to you in that moment. So there is no wrong answer. And so yeah, I had to tell her that, because the worst thing is whenever you feel like you're on this diet, right? And then you go to the you go to the restaurant, and then everybody gets their orders, whatever, burger and fries, chicken tenders, whatever it, just this is just random meals. And then they come to you, and you had in your mind that you were going to get a grilled chicken salad or something because you want to stick to your fat loss goals. And then at the very last second, you decide to go with the burger and fries yourself. And then not only do you feel guilt, like not only do you not get to enjoy that burger and fries fully, it's just like you're feeling guilty that you broke that promise to yourself. And there's nothing wrong with getting a burger and fries. Like that's not the disconnect. The disconnect is that's not the point. The disconnect is you said that this was going to be important to you, and then whenever you came to you, then you kind of broke that promise. And so that's what makes you feel guilty. So it's just like, if you're going to just choose one of them, there is no wrong answer, because you're going to have a million other choices within the next week to quote unquote make up for that, or like get back on track with your diet after this is over. But what we want is we just want conscious decisions. We want to avoid the mindless eating. We want to avoid the impulsive decisions, because that's whenever we're not aligned, right? And that's what we want. We want to just make sure, hey, and that's why I try to tell clients too. And I know I'm on a tangent here. I'm going to wrap this up.
I love tangents. That's why I have a podcast. What do you think?
Right? And it's just like, this is why I tell my clients, is like, look, I'm not your dad. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? Please, by more than me, like you're an adult, you do whatever you want to do, just as long as you accept the consequences of those actions. I'm fully on board. So what I'm saying is, hey, you can't, if let's say, for example, your fitness isn't going as well, your fat loss journey isn't going as well, and then you go out to eat, and then you decide to choose that like life path where you just get whatever you want, you really enjoy yourself, but then you get frustrated that your fat loss results aren't what they quote unquote should be, or what you expect them to be. It's like, okay, there's also a disconnect there. So it's just like, hey, that's something else that we need to take into consideration. And it just comes down to managing those expectations on a ongoing basis. And then whenever you do fuck up, because it's going to happen, it's just like, let's practice some compassion and kindness, and then just realize you have so many other choices. It's like, just get back on track next meal and try and make your next choice the best choice. And then just keep doing that over and over and over again.
Absolutely. You use so much verb. First of all, that was a great tangent. I love a good tangent. That's why I have a podcast, because I hate caption limits. But there's so much wonderful verbiage that you use there. For one, conscious decision making. I use that with my clients all the time. I'm like, hey, you are a sovereign being. Just think, be present, make that decision for yourself. And I find that the clients that are able to not only do that, but then also in those scenarios where they maybe choose a different path, or things didn't pan out the way they wanted to, but they're able to move through that a little bit more fluidly and with a little bit more grace, and just kind of take it like, a duck, just the water roll off your back kind of a thing. They physically respond better. I firmly believe there's like some stress response stuff tied up in with that, where I'm like, hey guys, the stress that you're putting yourself under for being imperfect for a day is worse than the actual being imperfect for a day.
Yes.
Firmly believe it 100%, but also zooming in on your point of managing the chosen value along with your expectation of the outcome. I think we put a negative connotation to the word consequence, but every action, positive, negative, neutral, has a consequence. So it's like, hey,
I'm sorry to cut you off. I struggle with that. I struggle with that word too. Like whenever I say it, I'm like, I feel like it has this negative connotation, but that's not what I mean. It's just the result of the cause.
Exactly. It's a side effect. It's a consequence. Like it literally, if you just break it down, we're the ones that gave it a negative. We came up with words, and then we gave words connotations, because we're conscious, annoying beings. But
it happens.
It really does. Here we are. But you have to acknowledge, like, hey, if I make this decision, here's what could potentially come as a result. And you have to be able to be just aware and adult enough to say, hey, here's a decision that I made. This was the outcome of that decision. I can own that, instead of like playing victim game of like, oh, I made this decision and then the outcome that I wanted didn't happen, even though the decision that I made wasn't in alignment with the outcome. Like, no, you just got to own your shit sometimes and be like, and like you said, it's one meal, it's one day. You're going to eat thousands of more meals in your lifetime. You've got time. I think we put, like you've talked about already, so much pressure on ourselves, with especially women within fitness journeys of like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. I have to achieve this, as quickly as possible. And I think that largely comes from typically when people are embarking on a fitness journey, is because they have hit a vulnerable point, and we want out of that as quickly as possible.
100%. But it's just like, in a way out of that, while they can think it is through looking a certain way, what it really is just they want to be proud of the decisions that they're making on a regular basis. Like I can't see how you can be upset if you are consistently making choices that align with what's important to you. And it's just like, other than that, and I get it, you can be frustrated maybe at the results or whatever, and you can think about it that way and be worried about the outcomes. But it's just like, if you're doing everything that you can do, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Then it's just more like compassion. Like then we have to practice that compassion and realize, hey, you're doing what you need to do. And again, it's just health and fitness. You have forever. You have until you die, like good news.
You're 6 feet under, sister.
Good news and bad news. It's like, this stuff will go on forever. Like you're going to be, this is an ongoing, like, and that's what I think that a lot of people need to realize, is that it's a practice. Like it's an ongoing daily practice. And I get it that you might hire a coach for a 12-week transformation or something like that. But it's like, it's almost like, and I'm not trying to compare people to dogs, but it's whenever you put the medicine in the peanut butter, right? And so it's like, whenever people come through my coaching program, it's like, sure, I can sell them the 90-day transformation or whatever, show them these testimonials and everything like that. But it's like the real reward there is in the things that you learn and how you feel about yourself, and then keeping those promises. And then of course there is like the tactical strategies and nutritional things and training things and how to navigate different obstacles in your life that you can keep with you for a very long time. But I think the biggest thing, like you were mentioning earlier, it's like you just do these things, and then you just realize, hey, I can do these hard things. I can critically think myself out of this problem without having Emily's help. I had this problem. She asked me, she prompted it to ask me this question. And then I proposed a solution, and then that solution worked. Mm-hmm. And then that's the biggest confidence booster of all time. And then by the time that those 12 weeks are up, or the 6 months, whatever it is, now it's like the best thing, at least in my opinion, that a coach can ask for is for the client to not need them anymore. It's just like that should be every good coach's. Exactly. That's our goal. Because you're a good fucking coach, Emily. But it's just like, that's the point. It's like, that's our goal should be to coach people so that whenever they're done with us, they can do this stuff on their own. They can manage all of these different situations. They can manage their self-talk. They can ride the waves of the ups and downs with the weight fluctuations or whatever it is, and stay on track and figure out what's important to them. And they can use that as they go on throughout life. And it's like, that's, I don't know what else we should do with our time, to be honest, because that's it. That's it right there.
That's all we got.
That's it.
Mic dropped. Oh no, I love it. I love it. And yes, if your coach wants you to be with them forever, don't hire him. We don't want you to be with us forever. We want you to fly the nest. We want a new crop of people in here. I'm getting hair stuck in my mouth. Good stuff.
You're good. It's that beautiful mane of yours.
Thank you. She needs a wash. She's a lot to manage. But a couple of tactical things that I wanted to kind of touch on. I think a lot of people are, and macros are beautiful. They're wonderful. They're science. They work really, really well for some people. But I think a lot of people are also starting to develop interest in, or maybe more of a psychological need for, more flexible nutrition methods. But they understand, okay, I need to, eat vegetables and, have protein with every meal and drink water and all this stuff. But the actual non-quantitative, so not specifically tracking, do you have any more meticulous or like slightly more granular than just eat more vegetables, habit-based tips that work really well with clients that may be trying to transition away from tracking and into more just like an auto-regulatory way of eating?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one is probably going to be just like figuring out how to go beyond the spreadsheet and kind of like listen to your body. And it's just like that. It takes a lot of inner work, to be honest, and it takes some time, and it takes some trial and error. But yeah, so it's just like kind of listening to your body as far as hunger cues, and not just eating meal one because it's 9 a.m. or something like that, right? Or saving a certain amount of food because you have 30 grams of carbs left or whatever, right? It's like those are all things that you kind of have to unlearn as you transition out of that stage. And I think that stage can be important for most people, not everybody, not necessarily, but I think for a lot of people, it's a pretty fast track. I'm talking about tracking calories and macros, right, and being pretty meticulous for whatever, 3 to 6 months or something. And in the grand scheme of your life, talk about an asymmetric bet where there's very little downside and a whole lot of upside. It's like tracking for 3 to 6 months, everything that you put in your mouth, using the food scale, reading nutrition labels. I get it. It can be tedious, and it's still not for everybody, but that can be helpful in kind of building up that intuition as you transition out of that, and you're able to estimate portions and things like that. But yeah, I think, and managing your hunger is definitely going to be another huge one. Just kind of staying within that 4 to 7 scale, where like 10 is I don't even remember which one's which, but
I think 10 is like super stuffed, and one is
stuffed.
like
Yes, that makes more sense.
super hungry.
One would be like ravenously hungry, and then 10 is going to be like very uncomfortably full. And so it's just kind of, yeah, it's listening to those cues. If you have food on your plate but you're full, it's like you don't have to eat the rest. Like being from the South, that's definitely a huge thing. Finish all the food on your plate. That can be something that you have to unlearn over time. Let's see. Another one is just like, I would say just balancing your day, like just figuring out like, hey, if I'm going to have a big dinner tonight, it probably makes more sense. Again, I'm not saying to intermittent fast until dinner. I'm not telling you to very much like deprive yourself in the beginning of the day or anything like that, so you can save up all these calories so that you can binge at nighttime. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, hey, if you know you're going to have a very high fat, a very high calorie, alcohol meal at dinner time with friends, it's like, it can make a lot of sense to balance that out earlier in the day by still eating to fullness, still eating to satisfaction, but like, let's go a little bit more conservative. Let's go a little bit lower in calories. Let's go more protein. Let's go more nutrients, because you want to kind of front load all of those things, because you might not have as many of those things at dinner time, right? It's like, so I think, and people just do this naturally. It's just like, if you drink a lot of alcohol on the weekend, it's like, hey, let's maybe not have wine with dinner Monday through Thursday of next week or something, So I think it's just, yeah, you've just got to balance things. And that's how it's kind of constantly going on in my head. I was like, okay, I had a really higher fat meal earlier in the morning. So it's like, for lunch, I'm going to keep things a little bit tighter. And then dinner, I'm going to keep things maybe a little bit tighter as well. But it's just like constantly going back and forth in your head and checking in with yourself. And again, you can have 3 high fat meals in a row. You can eat whatever you want for the entire day. But it again goes back to, you accept the consequences that come with that. All right. And so it's like, it's these flexible boundaries, but again, you have to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, I think the balancing that is constantly kind of I have my constants, which is like, hey, each meal I'm just ingrained to start with like my protein source, because that's kind of how I develop everything else around that. And usually that just makes it a good meal in general. I like having some type of meat or protein source, right?
Give me a good steak and I'm a happy girl.
Yeah, exactly. But like the question I always tell my clients, one of the first things is just like, hey, what's my protein source? What's my fiber source? Like, those are 2 very basic questions that if you nail those and you figure out both of those, everything else is almost going to take care of itself, right? If you have a higher protein meal, if you have a higher fiber meal, seeing how fiber is in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, kind of more nutritious foods in general, it's just like, those are going to take care of your hunger. It's going to take care of the fat loss side of things, because it's probably going to be lower in calories. The protein is going to take care of satiation, and the fiber is going to take care of satiation as well. And it's going to take care of the muscle building, right? So it's just like, how can we figure out these big rocks? It's kind of like the 80-20 rule. It's just like, what are the things? And that's what I've used over my time of going to that extreme of bodybuilding and of natural bodybuilding and tracking everything for 22 weeks and going to these extremes. It's just like that helped me now, because I can extract that knowledge and just figure out the most important things and how can I hyper focus on those the majority of the time. If I don't, that's okay. If I eat a meal without protein, that's okay. Because again, it's a practice.
We're gonna die.
You're good. It's good. It's going to be okay. Your muscles are still going to be there tomorrow. I promise. Yep. But it's just like that type of stuff can be hard to unlearn. And so it's just like that takes a little bit of time, but I think it's a lot of reflection, a lot of kind of checking in with yourself. And it's going to be harder at first, but I think as time goes on, you're going to start realizing, hey, okay, I'm usually hungry around this time. I feel full after eating this much. I can kind of honor that. I'm working on my self-talk whenever maybe the scale goes up. And that's another thing, like with the scale, you don't have to weigh yourself every day if you don't want to. You don't have to weigh yourself at all if you don't want to. You can use other things, like if you have a favorite pair of jeans or something, if you have a favorite pair of or a belt or something like that, right? That you wear often. I'm just saying that's something, just some type of feedback mechanism over time if you don't want to weigh yourself all the time. Because again, we want to be healthy. We want to take care of ourselves, because you're not going to feel good about yourself if you're just constantly eating shit and then you're lying to yourself in the mirror that you're like, that you love yourself and that you're happy. Because again, it's not because of how you look, but it's because of
treating yourself.
Your values aren't, it's not aligned, right? So it's not how you look, right? But it's just that you're lying to yourself, and you can't lie to yourself either. You can't bullshit yourself. We're the best. Yeah, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, and you are the bullshitter. And so it's just like, yeah, those are, I hope that gave you somewhat of what you were looking for, but those are a few of the things. Yeah,
absolutely. Because and this is also something that I believe about any good coach that uses macro tracking. You should be, when somebody, it's like a bell curve. It's like a hill. When somebody comes to you, especially if they've never tracked a thing ever in their life, it's like, okay, we're starting at ground zero. First step, let's keep a food log. Okay, next step, let's track total calories. Next step, let's track total calories, protein, fiber. Next step, let's track all your macros. And then you get up there at that like peak of that curve. You're learning, like you're recalibrating your system. Because when you were at the bottom and you're like, I've never tracked a thing a day in my life, you're probably eating fairly imbalanced in terms of your nutrients. Protein and fiber are probably pretty low. Carbs and fats are probably pretty imbalanced. So it's like, okay, we recalibrate the system and we're learning along the way and we are absorbing this knowledge along the way. So then, okay, we start to step away from tracking. We go in the reverse. Okay, you go from all three macros, we go back to calories, protein, fiber.
Yes.
Go to total calories, food log. And by the time you get over that hill, we have, again, I love the word like recalibrated system of like, okay, now I can go back to that kind of ground zero place, but with more knowledge and more perspective and more self-understanding of not only what food means in like the broad technical sense, but also what food means to me in my body. And so that's why we need to be paying attention along every step of the way. So that way it's not a crutch and it's instead a tool that, you don't always need to put a hammer to a nail in the wall, right? You can put the hammer away.
100%. And I know that I keep saying this word, but you also have to recalibrate your expectations as you tend to go back down that hill, right? Because what happened whenever I was competing in bodybuilding in college and things, and, I was working out 2 hours a day, 6 days per week. I was, tracking my calories. I lived with like 4 other meatheads, like it was our tradition every night to like, we were like, all right, let's, what's funny is we were like, all right, let's get stoned and let's go to the gym. That was usually like, that was it.
God. I can't work out when I'm stoned. Well,
I mean, it might've been mostly me, but a lot them too. But we would get ripped and we would go to the gym. We'd have a great
get ripped
time.
And get ripped.
You get ripped and get ripped. There's a program there somewhere. That's funny. But what happened was that like, I carried those same expectations with me as I started to prioritize work, traveling, hobbies, adulting. I was just out of college and there was other things that were important to me. And I was no longer college Matt, but I still had college Matt expectations as far as how I'm supposed to look, how I'm supposed to work out, my nutrition. And so that takes some recalibrating as well. So because if that's all you've kind of known, and especially if it's part of your identity, if you're known as like the fitness guy or the fitness girl, right? Or that's just kind of your thing in your friend group. And that's, and especially for people who they've, maybe they were really down beforehand and they found fitness and that really became their identity. And then they have to try and move away from that. And maybe that calls for a little bit of extra body fat for certain periods of your life, or something like being comfortable, not looking exactly how you want to look for 365 days per year, but it requires 6 days in the gym, multiple hours of cardio, all of these things. It's very hard to make that transition. And so as you're recalibrating things, it's just like, you have to constantly check in like, hey, this is what I want. Like I'm prioritizing something else, and that's okay. That's totally okay. And also know that you can flip the switch later on as well. That's also something that like you can, like for me, if I wanted to get bodybuilding shredded in the next, 12 weeks or 24 weeks or whatever it is, I know that I could flip that switch because I've gone there in the past, because I've had this knowledge. I know the things that I need to do. I definitely don't want to do that, but it's just like, even at the beginning of this, of summer and things. And I just came out of, my 5-year relationship, and, there was just a lot of things happening where I was and then it was summertime, so there's going to be less clothes in general. And so I was just more cognizant of, it's just, it is what it is. And so I was more cognizant of my body. And so I was like, okay, now I'm going to prioritize fat loss more, because it's just something that I want to focus on for the next few weeks, because I want to have a goal. I want to feel good about myself. Like I want to have these certain things, just because I had been more lackadaisical and I was having too many glasses of wine with dinner, and even though I know I shouldn't or something.
I see the box back there with your
wine.
wine.
You know what? Yeah, that's the little non-existent bar cart right there. There's a couple bottles of bourbon. It's like, that's the saying. I'm from Kentucky. We like our bourbon here. There's wine. I like it all. And that's great. But again, it's just like, if I'm going into the summer, like, hey, I'm going to lose some fat, I'm going to do these things. It's just like, I'm going to have to cut back a little. You have to make sacrifice. You have to make some trade-offs. It's part of it.
Every vending machine has a cost associated with the thing you want to get out of it.
Yeah, that's how it works.
It's exactly. So it's like step one is establishing the values of, what you're doing, why you're here. Step two, or you could probably flip-flop these, is establishing what expectations that you have. And then step three is, okay, how do I create actions and systems and habits and behaviors that align with both of those things?
And how can you consistently reflect on those, whether that's like morning journaling or whatever it is, right? Just keeping that. And that's what I say with the coaching, that it's ideal if we can keep those values in the forefront of these clients whenever maybe they're feeling down or something like that. It's just like, hey, no, this is what you said was important. So let's make sure we keep our eye on this as we move forward.
Absolutely. I kind of want to pivot. You mentioned, and I knew this about you already because I know you, but since you mentioned recently getting out of a 5-year relationship. That is obviously a long-term commitment. That is obviously a big life change. So whatever you are comfortable with unpacking, like, how has that been for you?
It's been really good, to be 100% honest.
Good.
And I would be 100% comfortable, even if my ex was listening to this too, because I think she would say the exact same thing. I think that we both, and I love it for us, to be honest, because we still, I'm not saying I talk to her every day, but I FaceTimed her like a week ago with her. Me and my sister were in the car. My sister's actually going to stay in New York with her because they're close and things.
So it's civil.
It's the most civil because it was the right thing to do. And we made better best friends as opposed to romantic partners. And I think that was something that it took us a while to kind of accept and realize. And we even now, like we sent a message the other day and we were just like, I was like, I know it's the wrong thing and we don't need to be together. I was like, but I just want to give you a hug right now. It's just like, I just want to, and I'm just happy she's doing good. I'm happy she's doing okay. She's happy that I'm doing okay. And it's just like, it was honestly, it's the best thing that I could ask for with a breakup, all things considered. It was very amicable and we both wished each other for the best. And I think that she is happier now and I am happier now. And we can both kind of laugh about certain things. Like if there's something that like I did or something, she was like, oh good, I'm so glad I don't have to put up with that anymore,
right? Like you can,
that's great.
That's so beautiful though. So guys, this does exist, it is out there, but it takes a lot of self-awareness, it takes a lot of honesty, and it does take a lot of love for both the other person and yourself. And so to be able to end things in an amicable place, you were also probably able to say, like, I wish I could just give you a hug right now as your friend. Like, I think we make these attachments to, and understandably so, it's part of our psyche, but like we make attachments to romantic love that we think that if the romantic love is no longer there, that there is no love there at all. But there are so many different forms of love. And if somebody was in your life for 5 years and things ended well, there's no reason why they shouldn't be in your life at all. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
So I would be curious, what have you, because obviously now you have more time to yourself, more time, it's just a self-development period. Like, it's like you had all this time that you were investing in this relationship and now that it's opened up. So what are maybe some things that you are learning about yourself, anything like that? If anybody here isn't familiar, I met Matt in an event in Austin, and he was just a sunshine person, like really wonderful human. So I would just be curious, like what your self-development journey is looking like right now.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it was, I'm so happy we got to meet. I feel like, we connect on many levels and we'll definitely, I'm excited to see you again. But so my North Star with basically everything is usually going to be like freedom and flexibility. And I feel the most free probably that I've ever felt in my life. And that feels really good. So in the sense of I can go anywhere, I can do anything with anyone. Now I have money as well. So for context, for people, everybody basically doesn't know, like once me and my girlfriend broke up, I had been single for the past, I had been single for 5 or 6 months in the past 9 years. So I went back to back long-term relationships. And, I just haven't, last time I was single, I didn't have money. I wasn't doing this whole thing that I'm doing now. And so now I'm very free. And that obviously has tons of upsides, but also I'm realizing, too much hedonism needs to be constrained, right? It's just like, I need to
calibration system is happening.
Sometimes I gotta stop texting these girls and I've got to do some work, it's just like, and that's also my problem, is that just, I love people and I love connecting with people, making people feel good. Cause again, it's just like, I feel good. I want, what's funny is Hayden Schneider put on his story, after his big trip or whatever, he put in all caps, like somebody was like, I love how you live or whatever. And he put in all caps. He said, I just want everybody to have a good time. Right. And I was like, dude, same. That's fucking it. That's it. And so with girls and things, and like I can communicate well, and I like talking with people, but it's just like I'm learning how to give myself certain constraints, and whether that is with girls or just like with work and things, and then also, or if it's like drinking alcohol too many days a week or something like that, or just these certain things, and making sure that I'm constraining myself in the appropriate ways. But honestly, I'm just right now, I am just open. I'm just accepting. I am just whatever. I saw there's some pithy quote or something. It was like, if it comes, let it. If it goes, let it. And I'm just like, I'm in a very accepting place right now. And I think it's like I think the Buddha said or something. It's just like anything that is happening to me in life right now, I'm just saying yes, and it's just that feels really good. But I'm also trying to make sure that I don't just get caught up in, hedonism or pleasure, or just being passive or something like that. But I also know that there's seasons, and I know that right now it's summertime, and I'm just coming off of this big event, and I'm now because so for people who don't know, I was living in New York City, and I was away from my family and all my hometown friends who still live here in Kentucky. And so I was able to come back. I was able to reconnect with them. I've been going out on the lake with my buddies and doing all these things that I wasn't able to, but I just didn't get as much of it while I was in New York City. Like, that's just normal. And then being with my parents and doing all these things. So I've been enjoying all of that, and maybe skipping work some days and just not worrying about working so hard, and going to have some fun. And so it's like over the summertime that I think makes sense, and it can call for that, and I can be outside more, and I can just work a little bit less. And then whenever winter comes, and now that maybe traveling is slowing down a little bit more, it's like I can put my foot on the gas a little bit more. And so it's just like the next season could be all about, grinding and not going out as much and not doing as many of these things, because that's what's important to me in this moment. And so it's constantly checking in. It's just like, what is worth doing right now? And one of the things that I wrote, I've been writing, I don't write it on my journal, but it's just something that I think about instead of a to-do list. I'm just like, how can I enjoy my day today? Right. It's just like, that's what I write at the top. It's just like, how can I have a good day? Like, what can I look back on again, whenever I put my head on the pillow at the end of the night? Like, how can I just that's success to me. It's just like, I go to sleep happy, that my conscience is clear. I kept these promises I made to myself. And I think I'm just constantly checking in with myself, recalibrating what that is, and making sure also that I'm not bullshitting myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just imagining you laying down on the pillow with your head at night, just a little smile on your face, like just happy, Matt, just I'm happy.
And it's like, I wish I could say that, it happens every day or whatever. Right. And I'm trying to, be accepting of that. And, most of the time it does. I typically sleep very well, but there's going to be bad days, and you have to you have to be able to ride that wave. because sometimes I feel lost, whether it is creatively or in my business. Maybe, certain clients have dropped off or something, and I'm getting anxious and nervous. And normally I would turn to my girlfriend, right? And, she could comfort me and have these things. And I'm also just not good at reaching out. I'm like fiercely independent in almost like a negative way, and it probably caused some issues in the last relationship because I just don't. I can bottle things up or not. Yeah, I guess I can bottle things up, but I am such an optimist that I'm just like, yeah, it'll figure it out. It'll right. happen. I'll be okay. I can take care of myself. I don't want to burden you with my issues, right? And so I'm very much going to take care of myself. And so it's just like that's some of the inner work that I'm figuring out. But net for sure, it's been a very positive experience.
I love that. But you're leaning into people more, which
yes,
100%. It's a hard lesson, like especially when you have just become an internal processor. I'm speaking from personal experience. Like it's a vulnerability point. You're like, how do I do this?
In Austin, whenever we were all hanging out, it was just like, I didn't know. I mean, I knew of you, and I knew of a lot of the people there, but even still with like Carter and Kaylin, who I'm still I'm friends with, but it's still like, I have limited time with them and everything. Yeah. So I'm still just like opening up and kind of showing that vulnerability where I am very much, I want people to like me. I really do want people to like me. And so I'm just making sure that I'm trying to be myself as much as I can. And then it's just like, if they accept that, they do. If not, that's okay too. And of course, all of you guys were above and beyond accepting, but that was kind of, I feel like I remember even while we were chilling there at one point, and I was just like, I haven't done something like this in so long. We're all just sitting and talking, connecting and things. I'm just like, I haven't done this in a while. So it was just kind of one big exhale, right? I was just like,
that's one of my favorite words.
Yeah. It was
people
just
that you can exhale around, or the people.
We exhaled together, and it was cool.
Really, guys, we actually really literally did. We had like a breathe. We came back from the club. It's like 3 a.m. We were all in our pajamas, and we just had like a nice breathing circle on the couch. Like it was great.
You led it. And I was just, you were like, let's take some deep breaths together. And I was like, okay, I've never done this before, and especially not with like strangers. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's fucking do it. So we
entered the vortex and you came out living your life. Guys, I just need you to know, Matt, at this thing, the next day I was talking with one of my friends, and we were just like, Matt was so great. He was like staying on top of everybody's hydration. Like he literally was always like, are you good? Do you need water?
Registered dietitian and mother came out.
I'm pretty sure you brought me like 12 glasses of water, and I needed it terribly. So thank you publicly.
You know what? Again, it's just like, I think it really is. I think part of it, full transparent, like I feel part of it is like, I wanted you guys to like me. And I think that's like gifting and things was part of it, but also just nurturing. Also my nurturing, just like registered dietitian, just thinking about this. And then just like, I'm like, hey, I want to make sure everybody's hydrated and stuff, and everybody again, I want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exactly what it was. And also, yes, the motherly instinct, and it's definitely my mom, because it's just like, she is above and beyond the most compassionate and most considerate. Like she does things, I'm just like, I would have never thought of doing that. It's just like, whenever I go home, it's like all of my favorite foods are there without her even saying anything, asking me any questions. Just like, they're just there. The bed is made. I've got stuff like, I probably have like a new shirt. She's like, oh, I saw this in the mall, I just wanted to get it for you. And it's there. And I'm just like, so yes, I'm trying to pass that along the best that I can.
Yeah.
But thank you for saying that. I'm glad you, thank you for that.
Absolutely. I think the group brings out the true best in everyone. So like we get to see not even in a performative way. Like I don't think you give yourself enough credit. Like I think the group just brings out the best in everyone. And so when we're all together, it's like we get to see everyone's best. And then we're also there to hold space for your mess too. So it's like both of those things can exist at one time and in the same place. And it's beautiful. And we need more of that just as a human collective. But you're a water boy.
That's right. It was very much like, come as you are. And I really like that. That's very cool. I like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right. Well, starting to wind this hour down. One question that I ask all of my guests, it's based off of my Wonder Woman mentality, which the shortened version is find out what makes you strong and what makes you awesome and run with it. So what is it that makes you, Matt, strong, unique, and awesome?
I would say, honestly, I would say it's kind of the ability to allow people to come as they are and to drop walls very quickly. Like I very much pride myself in trying to just get someone comfortable as quickly as possible. As soon as I meet them, I just want them to know there is zero judgment on this end. And I just want you to come as you are. And it's like with my podcast, this was something that I did kind of not necessarily on purpose, but it also just kind of happened whenever I first started my podcast, the More Than Fitness podcast. Nice little plug there. But
you're gonna have your chance to plug in.
I know, right? I know, right? So with the podcast, I wore Hawaiian shirts every single episode, and this was people. I would have people come on, and also I was in my closet. I was in my closet of my old apartment, and there was clothes around me, and I was a kid. This was like 2 years ago, and then and then I was in a Hawaiian shirt, but I called it my podcast uniform, and it was like a pineapple, a black, and then it had pineapples on it and stuff. And then I would rock, I still have it on. So this is my grandfather's gold chain. And he was the most charismatic, the most personable guy ever. He was just, every time my mom or my step grandmother, every time they see me, they're like, oh, you just remind me so much of him. And so that personality came out, and I was in this just crazy outfit, and I was kind of doing it to be funny. But the main thing, the reason why I always wore that Hawaiian shirt is because I wanted the guests to come in and then see me and be like, hey, dude, I'm willing to make fun of myself first. And like, I will take the heat, like whatever. This is a judgment-free zone. And it's just like, you can come as you are. And I think that's very much, I just want people to feel comfortable and to be themselves around me. So yeah, I think that's it.
That's a superpower. I love that. That's awesome. Then second to last question, what is something that you are excited about?
I like this question. I asked this question on my podcast too.
Hey.
I would say I am excited for, honestly, I've got some work, like there's certain parts with my business that I'm kind of excited to go into these next few months and just really buckle down on a few things and really try to get closer to my North Star, and just really, it's not necessarily like a pivot in what I'm doing. It's more of an expansion, right? And it's more so like I'm just trying to continually prop up my strengths with some of my business and what I'm doing, and just again trying to, and this all circles back to enjoying my day as much as possible, and trying to delegate some of the other things and get some help from other people. But I'm excited to kind of push myself in that aspect as we close out the end of the year here. So I hate to put it in the business terms and say that's the excitement, but I think sometimes career is just like I love what I do. We love what we do, and it's a big part of it. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of expand more into what I really enjoy doing and what I'm good at.
I love that. Perfect segue. Now's your opportunity. Plug away. Let people know where they can find you if they're interested in working with you. Listen to your podcast. Where do people get more mad? Where do people get more joy?
Yes, perfect. Yeah, that's what I want. So my podcast is the More Than Fitness podcast. I would definitely get Emily on there soon enough, but I have 2 episodes usually per week. And then one of them is more of a mini-sode. So it's going to be like a 10 to 20 minute fitness and nutrition topic, usually more like a deep dive into the nitty gritty of things. And then I usually have a guest, and then with the guest, it's going to be about an hour long. And then we go into whatever it is, usually whatever the strength of that person is, but also we can just talk about pure nonsense. It's literally just a conversation. And I get so much fulfillment out of it. And I'm really excited to keep doing those. So the More Than Fitness podcast. Oh, I also have drunk cast Q&As sometimes, which are super excellent. And it's just whenever
I'll come on.
I get you right. No, honestly, whenever I do them in person. So I've done with Carter and Kaylin as well. Like whenever you do in person, and Austin Current
so
is
much
another
cooler.
one.
Yeah.
Austin's coming next week, and we'll probably end up doing one. But doing drunk cast Q&A. So I drink a little bit of bourbon, and then I answer questions from viewers, and it gets more and more hilarious as the podcast goes on, because I'm literally slurring my words by the end. Which is it's fun. It's just a good time. So yeah, the podcast, and then my website is mattmcleod.org. So mattmcleod.org, because I'm fancy like that. And .com was taken. So that has my articles on there. I like writing blogs. I love writing. You can find both fitness and non-fitness stuff on there. And then Instagram. So at mattmcleod6, mattmcleod6, and you can say hi, say hello. I would love to hear from any of you and say hi. And then, yeah, if you want to find out the coaching stuff, you can go to the website, link in bio, all that fun stuff. But
all that great
that's
stuff.
it.
And we'll have all that in the description box. Mic drop. Thank you so much for coming on, Matt. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. It was a pleasure.